Welcome to a parallel project training APM Project Management qualification podcast based on the APM Body of Knowledge 6th edition. You should be using this in conjunction with our e-learning, study guide and potentially a tutor-led course. For more information, please visit www.parallelprojecttraining.com.
Hello, welcome to another Parallel Project Training podcast with John Bolton and Paul Neighbour. We are at I think this is probably the most difficult topic for all project managers when I'm running the APMP.
It's the thing that people get confused about most, isn't it?
It's
the most difficult thing to describe.
Yes,
because it's about the framework within which the projects are running.
Yes, and this
not
topic,
the projects themselves.
And this topic we're discussing is project governance.
Governance, yeah.
And I think the reason people struggle with governance is it's actually not that interesting for project managers. It's interesting for the leaders of the organisation.
Well, also they don't see the benefit of it.
No, and this is not really. It's not run for the benefit of the project. It's run for the benefit of the directors of the organisation. So their massive organisation doesn't appear on the 9 o'clock news with some project going badly wrong or signing some contract that they lose millions of dollars for the next 10 years on. So governance is about can be seen as constraining the project manager's action.
Yeah, I mean, organisations can spend a lot of money running projects.
Yes,
and they spend a lot of OPEX producing washing machines.
Yes,
and there are procedures about procurement and supply chain and all that stuff that make sure that all happens well.
Yes,
and this is the equivalent, really, of making sure that the projects, which are also spending a lot of money, are also governed in the right way.
Yes, and don't put the organisation at risk.
Yeah, that's right.
Don't expose the organisation to undue risk.
That's right. So the projects themselves jog along quite merrily, and they quite would do quite happily. But things like, well, how do you decide whether a project's worth doing or not?
Mm-hmm.
That's not for the project to decide.
Or when to kill it.
That's right.
Am I being told the truth?
Yeah, that's not for the project to decide. That's for the organisation to decide.
So I think for someone studying for the APM Project Managers exam, they have to move themselves to sit on the board of their organisation and think, what sort of questions would I be asking those oiky-doiky project managers?
Yes, that's right. what sort of things?
What sort of things
am I getting away with? Shouldn't I be getting away with?
Yeah, that's right. What sort of questions will I be asking them? Yeah. Before when they come to me with this mad scheme.
If you were poacher turned gamekeeper, yeah.
So the APM produced a little book a few years ago, which you actually sat on the committee to draft, did you not, John?
I did.
Is your name on that little book?
I think it is actually. Yeah. Yes, a wonderful document. It's called Directing Change, a Guide to Governance of Project Management.
Can you get that in PDF format?
I'm not sure you can, actually. I think it's available from the APM, but I've got one copy of it, which is sort of quite tattered.
Out of print.
It's not exactly a big book. It's only got about 14 pages in it, but I think I wouldn't advocate necessarily reading it anyway, because it's not going to give you a huge amount, because it would still leave you. It's principle based, it talks about the principles of governance, which are the portfolio direction. So what it's saying is make sure that all of your projects are directed and are the right things to do.
Yes.
Project sponsorship, having decided what your projects are, make sure that they're properly, there's a proper oversight from the managerial level. Project management effectiveness and efficiency, make sure that having decided to do something, it's done in the most appropriate and efficient way. And disclosure reporting is simply to make sure that if things aren't going as well as they should, then someone knows about it that's not the project manager. So they just encourage you to think about the different aspects of it in that sense. And then once you've got the principles sorted out, they talk about the guidelines, if you like, so that the things, that the individual topics that they consider to be valuable in the way that you run a project. And they're things like how do we know our projects are on track? Where does the responsibility for governance lie? How do we know people are properly trained? So, and not in terms of training for the project manager, but training for the people that are governing the project management.
That's right.
Yeah, and what are the governance arrangements? Are they documented? Where are they documented? I mean, things like local authorities have standing orders. Charities have rule books. Things that you have to follow, and they're just type of governance, really.
Yes, I think governance works well because it fits with both suppliers and client organisations quite well.
Yes.
Should we just pick through those a little bit more? So portfolio direction.
Mm-hmm.
That's saying if our organisation's strategy is, concentrate on the UK, then our portfolio direction would say, well, actually, if there's a project in the Middle East or Libya, then actually that might not be a project that we think we want to get involved in because it doesn't fit within our governance structure.
Yes.
And the project manager saying, oh, I only want to do this because it's a fantastic project. But you say it's not really part of the direction our organisation wants to go in.
I would see that more of a link to strategic change, rather than portfolio direction is about once you've decided to do the project. So we've got this bunch of projects. How do we know that they're directed properly?
Doesn't governance include deciding whether a project should be done or not?
It talks about the evaluation of one project against another, but that's not portfolio direction per se. Portfolio direction is about I've got this bunch of projects, and I've got these potential projects.
Yes.
Which should be in and which should be out
yes, that's right.
of that portfolio.
That's right.
But when you talk about whether they're aligned to strategy,
yes.
I suppose arguably, because portfolio directions are
what else would decide whether it's
risk
in my portfolio? Yes, that's right. Risk
number of resources.
Resources, yes, that's right.
So, I mean, there's lots of reasons why you'd want to do something that's not based. You might have a really, really good project that you don't do.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't conform to the rules that are laid down in the portfolio direction.
Correct.
So that's kind of where that's going. I see what you mean now. Yeah, I'm with you. Okay.
So we're a UK business, and that's where we're going to get our growth. That's our strategy. But this new idea might be a fantastic project, but it just doesn't fit the direction we've decided that we're going to take the business in.
And then you get project sponsorship, and that's about...
I always describe that as the golden thread. From the board of the organisation all the way down to the project manager, we should know who is responsible.
Yeah, and accountable, yeah.
So we know if that project goes wrong, that little project down there in the organisation that no one really cares about, who do we fire at the... What's the chain?
I think it's a bit more than that.
Is it a bit more? Go on then.
Well, sponsorship is an active role, isn't it? It's about me as a sponsor making sure that you're properly engaged and supported in doing your job as a project manager. So, but the organisation is making sure that the sponsors are trained, for example.
But it doesn't stop at the sponsor, you see, because it goes right the way up.
Yeah, through the steering group to the board.
To the board, and in a multi-organisational. A lot of the governance problems happen when you've got these portfolio organisations that got lots of companies, and it's that link between the group and the supplier, what they call them, subsidiaries. So we know what the linkage is.
Yeah, I think there's lots of projects that if they don't have adequate sponsorship, the project manager's a bit of a free agent.
That's right.
So they don't feel constrained by anything. They
drift from the organisation.
But on the other hand, they feel empowered. They feel as if they can make those decisions when, in
right.
actual fact, they're way beyond their areas of responsibility.
Yes, that's right. So they don't clear delegated authorities and that sort of stuff.
That's right. So I think project sponsorship is another grouping of stuff.
Yes.
Project management effectiveness and efficiency is about making sure that your project managers are properly trained and they're making sure that there's proper methods to work to.
They have a proper plan.
So it's about, that's right. So it's making sure that everyone's got a plan, making sure that they've got delegated authorities and that sort of thing to make sure that they are able to take the burden upon themselves if it's the right thing to do.
And would the business case come into that, sort of a proper business case? Or is that more?
Well, effectiveness is business case, isn't it? Efficiency is project management plan. But
yes.
Yeah, I think so. So project management effectiveness, efficiency, are we doing things as well as we can? Continuous improvements, lessons learned, open disclosure, looking at, if you have earned value or use an earned value, are we able to interpret it in the right way? Is everybody doing it the same way? All those sorts of things.
I apologise for the noise, everyone. It's actually pissing down with rain outside.
There's a technical phone. Yeah. 1 minute gazing across the Cotswolds, the next minute looking at a thundercloud.
And so the final, I think the easiest one to get your head around is disclosure and reporting. Because there's been quite a few cases in the press where big projects have gone wrong and the director said, well, if they'd only told us.
Yes, well, we didn't know.
We didn't know anything about that. Our project manager was very poor project management. They didn't highlight that issue to us. Oh, you wonder how true that is.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think, disclosure reporting, it's, called whistleblowing, isn't it, sometimes? And project managers sometimes under pressure not to do that.
I think whistleblowing is where you break the rules of the line.
Yeah.
I think disclosure reporting is more
Open
making
and honest
sure
stuff,
that your directors know the true status of your project.
Yeah. But I think there's a tendency to cover up
Yes, that's right.
and pretend things rather than they are.
Yes, that's right. It's gloss.
And occasionally you get someone sort of a voice in the wilderness that says, we shouldn't be doing this.
Yes, that's right.
So I think, disclosure reporting is the fourth principle. And what we've done is in the book, we've tried to reference the principles, the detailed governance of project management principles against those four main headings, four main components of governance. They don't fit perfectly, but I think there is an opportunity to be asked a question about portfolio direction, project sponsorship, project management effectiveness and efficiency, and disclosure and reporting. It won't be a whole question because they'll probably go on and ask you about the detail of it. But I always tell people, as long as they know sort of 3 or 4 of those principles, and it might be question number 9 or 10 that they answer, then you're going to get some marks for it. But answering governance question fully and completely, I think, is beyond a 50-mark question, frankly. But I'm not saying dismiss it. The other trick to do is to say, well, read that. So pick out one of those principles. How do we know we are doing the right things, for example? A coherent and supportive relationship is demonstrated between the overall business strategy and the project portfolio, i.e. the projects are aligned to support the organisation's goals and objectives. This could be an example of portfolio direction. How do you, if you went back into your business, if you were your board of management, how would you know that you're running the right projects?
Yes.
So go back into your organisation and look for examples of governance. In fact, there's an exercise in the book that asks you to do exactly that. Because, they're the things that really mean something to you and you can write about.
The places to look are investment appraisal, investment approval, business case approval, if you're on a client side. Yeah. So how are business cases approved and investments approved? And if you're on a supplier side, it's the bid, no bid meetings. So are we deciding that we're going to bid for this or not is how governance is exercised and controlled. And then chunks of procurement, contract approval. That's loads of governance in there. Before we sign a contract, who has the final signature on the contract? What are the procedures that we follow to do that? So I don't know. I find lots of people do this question and do well in it. And I think it's because it's so hard. They have to. They sort of, once you've got your head around it and once you can understand the perspective, then it's quite an easy.
One of the mistakes that a lot of people make is they start writing about project governance in terms of the project management plan or the business case.
Governance.
Not organisational governance. So I always tell people, think about it in the plural. It's about projects, not about a project.
Very good. Yes, that's right. When you get that big money job, project governance is what you need.
Yes.
When you're on the board of your organisation.
That's right. You want to make sure it's the second order, isn't it, of control? I'm controlling the people that are controlling things.
Oh, yes, very good. Yes,
so
that's right.
How do I know that they're controlling it properly?
Yes, that's right.
So step back one layer from it.
Yes.
You're managing the managers now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good.
Cool.
Excellent. Thanks, John.
Cheers.
We hope you enjoyed this podcast and found it informative. To order a study guide, e-learning, or a tutor-led course to go with this podcast, please visit www.parallelprojecttraining.com.